my high school that I went to.
Do you
I'm
know
currently going.
Josh Wagner?
Oh,
How old are you? 23?
no, 22.
22. Okay, he's 28. He went to Oswego High School though. What
Okay.
about Evan Snyder?
Mm-mm.
Okay, maybe he didn't go to Oswego. Maybe he went somewhere else. But um, Evan Snyder was. I think he's from Oswego, but he went to a smaller school.
Okay. Okay.
But
Are you from around this area?
I'm from the Chicagoland area. I grew up in Niles. Went to Niles West.
Okay. Okay.
My dad lived in the South Loop for a while, so I worked with the Illinois Indians and the Schaumburg Seminoles. I
Okay.
played in both of those organizations, and then worked for both of those organizations
Okay.
for a little while.
Yep. I know both of them. So
You're working with Top Tier right now?
I am. So my not this past year, but the year before, I worked with them. I coached with them for the first year, just kind of like a little summer job, which was really
Hmm.
nice. And then I worked with, if you know who Matt Plant is, or Griffin Phelps, worked with them for a little while, and then a guy out here by me, his name is Chris Jenkins. He has his own type of like private stuff, and it's through K25 baseball. That's what he named it.
Hmm.
And he went out to Top Tier and he's like, "Hey, can I bring out a couple teams by us? So then, because we don't have anything out by us." And they're like, "Yeah, for sure." So um, he got 11 through 13s last year. I had the 13U group, and that was chaotic and uh,
Yeah,
fun.
man. I coached a 12U team back in the day, and I mean, I went out to Cooperstown with them.
Yep.
That's the last time I'm thinking I'm going to coach an actual 12U team. I like working with athletes that are that old, but a whole 12U team out there at Cooperstown, that was a little bit more than I was expecting.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's amazing to see um, be on the other side of like just having to deal with parents,
Hmm.
and that's oh my gosh, it's something else.
Yeah, I remember when I was coaching a 15U team, my brother was on the team and he was playing, but he was also hitting over 300,
Yeah.
and he had like the least amount of errors on the team,
Mhm.
and I was still getting parents telling me, or I was hearing through the grapevine, that Tyler's playing his brother because he's his brother. And I'm like, let's go look at these stats real quick. Or this one kid wasn't playing, and I was like, he's an amazing pitcher, so I'm gonna pitch him. But I'm like, I'll let him play the field for sure. I mean, it's a 15U team, they should. But I'm like, he's not gonna play as much as somebody else who's actually like hitting the crap out of the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
When your son is hitting 120 and you're expecting him to play over a kid that's hitting over 300,
Mhm.
that's just unrealistic.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the reason why it's so beneficial to have actual coaches coach a team rather than just parents coaching a team,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the parents will play their favorites.
Yep.
Not
That's
to say that coaches don't have favorites, but
oh yeah, yeah. Every coach has their favorites, but when it comes down to it, you still have to keep your favorites accountable for their for their play and everything like that.
hmm.
Um, so when I played at a younger age, I played with there was parents as coaches, and obviously they always played um, their kid at shortstop, pitcher, wherever. I was stuck in the outfield. And it was really funny because once we got into high school and we were done with all of that, we went to other high schools and we just split up basically Oswego and Oswego East. And um, one of the coaches I tried out for, he called me up and he's like, "Hey, would you want to come play short on the sophomore level as a freshman?" I was like, "Yeah, duh, like that's no question." So it was really funny to see how I progressed throughout high school and he just kind of declined.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got the playing time.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's how it is.
The live reps, you can't replace live reps. And
No.
so I just talked to a basketball coach about this the other day, actually. Like, would you rather have a kid play up on varsity and see less playing time, or play down on the sophomore level and actually play every day. And it's like, hands down, sophomore level, like, go get those game reps, because that's what's going to pay off down
Yeah.
the road. Even though it might be cool, and it's kind of like getting having the same job but getting a new title.
Yep.
Like, you're not actually changing anything by getting a new title. You're
Hmm.
actually, but like, you gotta like put in the work, and you gotta get those live reps every single day.
Yeah. We had a kid, so I coached our sophomore football team, and there was a freshman running back that stayed on the freshman level last year, and he was awesome. Like, awesome. Ran over guys. Just he probably had 1,000-yard rushing season, and this next year comes and he's up with varsity. He's practicing with varsity. We're like, okay, that's fine. He can practice with them. He'll probably be down with us. And never came down. Never. He had, I don't know, 20 carries the entire year
Hmm.
and played the fullback spot most of the time. But they were not lined up in that fullback set the entire time. While he could have been down with us, getting all these reps, getting ready, and next year he would have been, in a prime position.
Or like, keep him down there at the sophomore level, and then when they need him at the varsity level, like, go like, if they need him for a game, like, pull him
Exactly.
up
Yeah.
for the game. But like, why keep him up there if he's just going to sit? How's
Yeah.
that helping him? How's that helping the program?
Hmm.
So, but I think that's one thing that a lot of coaches are blind to, actually, is like, they bring up these kids, and like, they just don't realize what they're doing.
Oh yeah, it's from the sophomore level to varsity on every single sport. It is a different speed. It is a different speed. You got men up there on the varsity level, and if you're being pulled up, you have to be at that level or higher. Like, it's just that's how it's got to be. And if you're just kind of like hovering in that middle ranged average, you got to try and kind of you got to come back down and play with your guys and get those live reps in.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of funny you bring that up, because I remember one time when I was in college, I coached in the summer. I coached a high school team,
Hmm.
and we actually scheduled a game against a college summer team.
Yeah.
And so we had a kid on the team who was a junior and in high school, and he fields this ground ball just normal speed, like, normally what he does, and he picks it up and throws it to first, and that kid had beat it out by like 5 steps. I'm not even kidding. It was not even close at all. I'm like, why did he even throw that ball? And I just remember telling him, I'm like, dude, you got to pick that up and get rid of it. I'm
Yeah.
like, we're not playing against, 5-1 runners anymore. So that's how it is, for sure. So one of the things that we briefly chatted about on LinkedIn was, uh, like, controlling what you can control.
Hmm.
So like, when you talk about controlling what you can control with your players, what do you normally talk about with them?
So the two biggest things I talk about with them are attitude and effort. Those are your two things that you can control no matter what. And let's say, what position did you play when you played baseball?
I pitched.
You pitched. Okay, I'm a pitcher too. So when I'm on the mound, when I release that ball and that ball comes out of my hand, I can't control that. I can't control what the batter does. I can't control if the umpire calls it a ball or a strike, but I can control how much I put on that ball. I can control that velocity. I can control what type of spin I put on that ball, what type of pitch I throw. And then after that, if I think it's a strike but it's called a ball, am I going to get upset about that? Am I going to show body language to the umpire? No, I can't do that. I have to control that. And that all leads into, all those fielders around you, they're watching you. You have the ball every single time, every single play, every single time you have that ball. And they're watching you. They're watching your attitude. They're watching your body language, and they feed off of that. If I'm up there and I'm just kind of lackadaisical and kind of going through the motions and being very slow and deliberate between pitches, they're not. Let's go. Come on. They're going to be sitting there like, let's go. I don't want to be sitting out here anymore. All these negative thoughts go through their head. Now, if I'm going up there and I'm trying to attack hitters, I'm trying to get them out. I'm trying to do whatever it takes to put my team in a better position to win and to get outs. then they're going to be wanting to, they want to play behind me. You know,
For
the
sure.
game picks up, um, the intensity of the game picks up, and that's something that I learned this past season. So my sophomore year, I transferred from University of Wisconsin Oshkosh to Aurora University, and it was a completely different philosophy of pitching that my pitching coach taught me, and it was really hard to pick up because at the time I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. So went into the season and was lined up as our number 3 starter. My first game out there was not good. I gave up 8 runs over 2 2/3 of innings, and
Good.
not good. So got pulled. They gave me another chance. Went down to our spring trip. Went down to Florida, and same thing happened. 10 runs over just over 2 innings again. Pulled me. And I'm like, what is going on? And, he was trying to talk to me. He's like, listen, when you're out there, you're being very like slow in between pitches. You're not trying to attack hitters. You're trying to be very pinpoint of what you want to do with your pitch. Guess what? If you throw something that's, very electric through the strike zone and it just misses, that's what we want. We want something that has movement, that has life to it, that's going through that strike zone at max peak. And that's how you get your players behind you to start making plays, to start being in the game a little bit more. And I think that's really important to where I try and translate that to younger kids. So when you're trying to translate that, they're looking everywhere. They're getting distracted by everything. But it's really important to try and keep them um,
Engaged.
engaged in the game. And when you're in your third game of the day, it's really tough to do that. But you got to try and bring them together. Hey, listen, let's go. Okay, we got to work a little bit faster here. We got to keep doing things with energy, with intense. Okay, you guys are out here to have fun. That's the number one thing we have to do. We have to be out here. We have to have fun. So if we're not here to be having fun, you guys aren't going to want to do anything. So it's really hard to translate that down to there, but it's really important for them to understand that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, it always comes back to that focus on what you can control. And also, like with your coach saying that to you, I talk about do you think when you were pitching, I mean, obviously probably not, but like when you were pitching and you gave up that 8 runs and then you gave up the 10
Mm-hmm.
runs, do you think you were like in the zone or in that flow state, or do you feel like you were out of control a little bit
Mm-hmm.
mentally?
Yo, for sure. Like um, after those first innings where you kind of give up a couple runs, um,
Your brain starts going.
yeah, everything starts going a little bit, and you kind of get yourself away from where you're at right now. What am I doing right now? And fear starts kind of creeping in a little bit. I don't
Hmm.
want to start giving up more runs. I don't want to start walking guys. I don't want to let up hits.
And then that's when you start to get perfect and try to pinpoint everything. And that's one thing I talk about with athletes a lot is I got this from Ken Ravizza. Have you ever read Heads Up Baseball?
Mm-mm.
Well, that's a great mental game book that
Okay.
I suggest to everybody. But in that book, Ken Ravizza talks about how when we start to get out of control a little bit, and we start to get into like those yellow and red lights where we should probably either slow down, speed up, or completely stop.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you become one of 3 types of players normally. You become prayer, primal, or perfect. And prayer is like you're just throwing it, hoping and wishing and praying that it goes across the plate, for a strike. And then primal is like you try and like grit your teeth and throw it as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have perfect, which sounds like what you would get into or have gotten into in the past is like, you try to put it perfectly right there on the edge of the strike zone, right at the bottom corner outside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then next thing you know, the bases are loaded and you've thrown, 7 out of your last, or you've thrown 8 out of your last 10 pitches for balls
Mm-hmm.
because it's just not going your way. And then
Yep. Yep.
once you get back into those green lights and you get out of, so green lights is just like go, go, go,
Yep.
and you're in that flow state, that's when you're back to it, and you're doing what the coach wants, like where it's like, and it's what you want too, you're throwing it with that electric stuff across the strike zone with movement.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do you get out of that place though now? Like when
Mhm.
you find yourself in there, what can you use or what do you have to go to get back to your ideal performance state? What do
Exactly.
you think? What do you do, or what have you found yourself doing when you find yourself in that state where you're a little out of control?
So I really try to when I'm in that go 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 phase, I'm on the mound and go, on the mound, go, on the mound, go. When I feel myself kind of getting out of rhythm a little bit, I step off. I kind of take a deep breath, just kind of visualize myself throwing strikes, visualize myself attacking a hitter, visualize myself, um, just going after
Mm-hmm.
them. I'm a very visual learner, so that's kind of what I resort to. You know, um, between innings, if I come back into the dugout, I'm usually, I'm either up, I'm kind of walking around, or I'm just kind of, sitting down, but I'm still paying attention to the game. A lot of guys kind of like, they're in the zone. I like paying attention to the game. I like being, aware of my surroundings. Um, but at the same time, like I have to get back into my my thing every inning. Okay, it's a new inning. It's 0-0. I go out. I have to go out there and I have to shove. I have to go out there and just shove it down
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like that's what you've hopefully trained yourself to do over
there.
time. And so when you talk to your kids about that, do you talk about like breathing exercises with them? And do you talk about visualization with them?
Yeah, that's a good point. Breathing is really really important because there's a lot of kids, that nervous type of energy, that nervous feeling comes in, and sometimes it's good to, I told them, just step off the mound, gather yourself, gather your thoughts, and get right back on there and go back to work. Uh,
Hmm.
it's really really important to do that.
Yeah, what I found is that the kids though, I remember actually that exact same thing happened to me when I was pitching at Indiana State. My coach comes out to the mound and he tells me to it was against Dallas Baptist,
Mm-hmm.
and he comes out and he tells me take a deep breath. And of course, I take a deep breath, and all of a sudden, I notice everything about my body. I notice my hands are sweating. I notice my heart beating. I notice that, like, all of a sudden, I was super focused and super in the zone and super aware of my body.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened is that I hadn't practiced that outside of the game. That was
Yeah.
the first time I'd ever consciously and intentionally taken a breath in a game, and it freaked me out. So I was like, I was like, I don't like this, but it's because I never practiced it outside of the game. So now
Mm-hmm.
that I understand how the breath can help you and helps you focus, now I use it intentionally with my athletes and like, hey, let's work on some breathing techniques now so that when it gets to the game, you're used to it and you're used to that level of focus, and then training that into their their practice plan as well, putting it into their practice plan. So like when they go into the cage, they're taking a they're taking a breath before they take a swing, or when they're on the mound, like at OU, at Oklahoma University with their baseball team, their head coach Skip Johnson, he's always making sure that like when they come set, they're taking a breath so
Mm-hmm.
that one, that he can see them being in control of themselves, but two, because it helps them again be in control of themselves and helps them focus and lock in and put that commitment into the next pitch that they're gonna throw.
For sure. One thing I wanted to do with our pitchers this year, and that what we did this past year for AU was we have something that's called we only did it like 2 or 3 times, but called it a chaos pen. The regular bullpen, but at any time he could say, all right, do 5 burpees. Get off the mound, do 5 burpees. Our heart rate's going, heart rate's going. We have to gather ourselves to throw straight. So it's kind of trying to simulate that, intense
Dude, I
situation.
love that.
Oh yeah, it was
Yeah,
really
we used to do those actually too. And then I worked with the USA bowling team, and this guy
okay.
named EJ Tackett, he just won the US Open for bowling, but he was telling me that when he was younger, when he was like 8 years old, he was training that exact same thing that you're talking about right now. He would bowl a ball, and then he would sprint up and down the bowling alley twice, and then go back, grab another ball, try and calm down his heart rate, and then go again, because that's what it was going to be like when he got older and he got into the championship levels and rounds and whatnot. And I mean, he grew up in a bowling alley, and his dad was a great bowler as well. So like, but that's what he did to train that. That was his chaos pen.
Yeah, yeah.
And this is like the best, one of the best bowlers in the world,
Hmm.
and will be a Hall of Famer. And he's only 26 years old, which is crazy. So yeah, chaos pens are good. What other like what's one other strategy that you're looking to implement with the kids this year to help them really grasp another level of awareness within themselves?
So, oh, gee. um, what's one thing that we do? So they like doing, obviously they like doing a lot of the velocity stuff and stuff like that. I'm more of like, mechanics. I do a lot of with mechanical work, a lot of again with the mindset and stuff like that. um, I sit down to with them, and we talk about like what are we trying to envision when we're on the mound. Okay, so I bring a lot of the stuff that we learn at AU to what I do, with coaching the kids, because I think it translates a lot. And so one of the things with our pitching philosophy that we go with is, the number one thing is live low, let it fly. Okay, if I can have that in my mind, live low, let it fly the entire time, that's awesome. Okay, I can again have that movement throughout the zone, be shooting for the knees, trying to get those ground ball outs, trying to throw it past him and all that, trying to be explosive with our movements. Obviously, we're not always going to be at the knees. Sometimes we're going to have to come up at the belt. Sometimes we're going to have to come above the belt. Um, but that's where we want to be. So if we can have that mindset of live low, let it fly, and just be explosive, be athletic as possible, that is what I'm trying to accomplish with all these kids. So these kids are so young that they still don't know how their bodies work. They still need to figure out how different movements are working. They're going to have to change, mechanical work. There's not a kid out there at 12 years old that is perfect. There's just not. And there's always something to work on.
Yeah, there's no one perfect. I heard this great quote, or I didn't hear it. I read it the other day, and it was like the perfectionist who. Wait, how does it go? The perfectionist. Okay. So it's about perfectionism, and it's like um, the perfectionist who tries to be perfect at everything is left with nothing. So it's like you kind of just have to do and then make adjustments and then get back to doing some more, because you'll never be perfect. I mean, you can try, I guess, but part of it is doing, like you have to do. And like a perfectionist sometimes gets in like a zone of not doing, and
Mhm.
then they just lose track of learning, and then next thing you know, they're left with nothing,
Mhm.
and they're out of the game, or they're out of whatever that they were doing in the first place.
Yeah. The talking about like adversities and all that. I kind of mentioned talking about how if you can understand and accept being to fail and to understand that, but to not use it as an excuse, if that makes sense. So if I can learn how, listen, if I'm not going to be perfect with everything I do. I'm going to make mistakes, but I can't. I can't use that as an excuse not to give 100% effort.
Yeah, that's so true.
So
I like that. Giving that 100% effort is what, I mean, you have to do and you have to talk about. So like when you guys talk about this as a team, do
mhm.
you talk about the behaviors of the most elite athletes, and do you show them elite athletes or talk about those guys a lot, or is
Mhm.
it mainly like you're just asking for that out of them, or like what's one strategy that you use to like actually get that 100% effort and excellence out of them on a consistent basis?
For sure. So a lot of the stuff that we do, it may not be even baseball related. So one thing that we do is we send all our players home over the weekend with something to do with homework. So it's one thing that you learn, one thing that you can do better at home with with your parents. Um, what are three goals that you have for yourself? And they have to bring it back to us written on paper and turn it into us, and we'll go over it with everyone there. I think that's very important. I think it shows a sense of responsibility at a young age, and also oh
I like that.
yeah.
That's simple. I like how you simplified down the question to just like what's one thing you learned, because I was actually just talking to another coach, and he was telling me about like goal setting, which is basically what you're doing at some level.
Mhm.
And he to start the session, he'll give out sheets of paper to all the guys, and some guys will get, and it'll be about a paperclip. How many different things can you do with a paperclip? And he'll give some of the guys a sheet that says what are three things you can do with a paperclip. Then he'll give some other guys what are five things you can do with a paperclip, and then he'll give some other guys what are seven things you could do with a paperclip. And then the last group, he says, what are all the things that you can do with a paperclip? And it's kind of funny because the three, they come up with three, the five, they come up with five, the seven, they come up with seven, and they get super creative. And then the ones that come up with like how many things just all together can a paperclip do, they come up with the least amount on
Mhm.
average, because
Yep.
there's just so many different things out there. And so for you to simplify it down to just like what's one thing that you want to learn, or what's one thing that you have learned, what's one thing you want to get better at, like especially with kids, like
Mhm.
you need to simplify down the question like that. Even not even kids, but also parents and coaches and employees and coworkers, like spouses. Simplifying down the question will get you a better answer just
Yeah.
in general.
Yeah. It's tough to when you talk about even us at work at anything. It's really hard for someone to to tell you, I need you to work on this, 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 and this. Well, if you just say, I need you to work on this one thing. If you can work on this one thing, you're going to put your mind towards that one thing. If you have all these different, things that you have to accomplish, it's going to be very hard to, divvy it up. And, you might be good at some of them. You might not be good at some of them still. But if you focus on that one thing and get that one thing done, you can move on to the next.
Yeah, man, that front sight focus. Have you ever heard of front sight focus?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's a term that the Navy SEALs use, and they talk about how the only thing that's important is what's through the front sight of your gun. After
Yep.
that, you can then move on to the next target and the
Mm-hmm.
next goal. But it's like keep what's right in front of you as your main focus. If you're looking down the barrel at one thing, but you're concentrating on another thing, it's like you're not going to be good at both of those. And
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like chase two rabbits, catch none.
Yep.
Or also the chances of you accomplishing one goal is like 80%, I
Mm-hmm.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget I can't remember the exact research article, but they talk about how, like, if you have one goal, you're 80% likely to accomplish that goal. Now, if you have two goals, that means you're 80% likely to accomplish one, and then you're 80% likely to accomplish the other one as well. So you have to multiply the two together. 80% times 80% is 64%. So you're actually only 64% likely to accomplish both of those goals. And then if you add in another one, I gotta do the math real quick. 80% times 80% times 80%, you're 51.2% likely. So it's like just concentrate on what's right in front of you to give yourself the best shot at winning.
Yep.
Going back to like one pitch at a time too. Same thing.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
like if you're focused on the last pitch and you're trying to throw this pitch, you're less likely to, I mean, like mathematically, you're less likely to throw this pitch for a strike or however you want to throw. Maybe it's a curveball in the dirt.
Exactly.
But yeah, man. So what are you working on outside of what are you working on outside of baseball right now that's like you're hoping to take into the baseball world and like teach your kids?
So there might be some music that comes on here because we're
Passing periods.
changing passing periods.
Oh, it's all good.
So one thing that I hope. Sorry.
After Rodriguez, please come to door one. After Rodriguez, please come to door one.
Okay, so one thing that I hope to, kind of, bring with is just like oh my gosh.
Mistari to attendance, please. Preparing. Mistari to attendance.
All right, can you repeat your question?
Somebody's in trouble.
Can you repeat your question real quick?
Now, what I was asking is like, what are you working on outside of sport right now that you're hoping to like kind of take into that realm and like work with your kids, or hoping will pay off so that when you do work with your athletes, it's like, okay, like I'm glad I worked on this, you know?
Yeah. So okay, so everything that we do, I want to translate that to life. I think baseball does a very, very good job of trying to translate what you learn in baseball to life. Because in baseball, that's a game of failure. You're going to fail at that game. If you go 3 for 10 every time at the plate, you're a Hall of Fame. Congratulations, you're a Hall of Fame. But guess what? That's not going to happen. You're going to go 0 for 10. You're going to go 1 for 10. You're going to go through struggles. But it's how you. I want to teach them how to handle these failures, so then you can apply it to life. Not every all the kids that I'm coaching right now, there may be one that plays professional baseball. Maybe. But if I can translate this, all that we learn right now, into life and how to apply that to go to work every day and to, put forth your best effort, put forth what you can give that day is very, very important.
Mm-hmm. So, what are you failing at right now then? Or what's a recent failure you've had that you can take to them and be like, hey man, like I fail all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to fail. Or maybe it's one thing that you're working on. One thing that I'm going to start doing here is um, I want to learn how to play the guitar, and I want to learn how to sing the Star Spangled Banner, so I could go out there before a game and sing the national anthem in front of a crowd right before a baseball game. Like
Yeah.
that's going to be a test for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what are you kind of working on right now to kind of like test yourself so that you can like, continue to walk the walk, not just talk the talk with your kids?
So one of the things I'm trying to accomplish right now is, as a senior, here comes the music. Um, as a senior, I want to, try and lead my team. Okay, I'm not as I don't like speaking out in front of groups so much, but I'll talk to you one on one. I'll talk to you one on one, like about what's going on. So, um, I'll talk to my kids about that. Listen, we're gonna have some vocal leaders. We're gonna have some leaders by example. Um, I don't want to say that I fail at talking as to a group, but I'm not. I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy who's gonna be like, hey, look, be that rah rah guy.
Logan Guerrero, please
But
come to door one. Logan Guerrero, please come to
I
door
want
one.
to try and lead my team, become a captain, become someone that guys can look to come to me and like, hey, how do I do a certain thing? The last couple of years, last year I did a little bit of that. The year before I didn't really do that at all because I was a sophomore. I didn't feel like that was my place, and I think that kind of hurt me a little bit. But looking back on it, like I wish I could have talked to guys a little bit more, and that's what I'm trying to make you know very important going into this year. Even when we're going through our lifting phase, our off season phase is very important to try and uh, keep your teammates accountable, keep in contact with all the guys, especially the younger guys, so then they're not being left trailed behind.
So like this is a really interesting conversation to have because accountability has been a huge topic discussion in the sports world, especially these last few years.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like how do you, because a lot of kids nowadays in college and in high school, they don't want to be held accountable or they're not used to being held accountable. So as soon as they are held accountable, they feel like they're a bad person,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
So how do you hold somebody accountable on a team without making it seem like that person's a bad person?
Okay. So the old school way of doing it is keeping them accountable. Guess what? You run. That's the old school way. Just go run. And on our football staff on the sophomore level, our head coach and a couple of the other guys, they like doing that, and they feel like they get the most out of the kids by doing that. I do that only if I have a sense that they're not locked in. They're not focused on the drill that they're doing at hand. If they're just kind of goofing around or whatever, guess what? All right, guess we can do something productive. Go run. That'll be more productive than what we're doing right now. So that's what I tell them. Like, I'm not gonna make you run if we're not doing something right. We're gonna learn how to do it. But being accountable for each other's actions, um, it's very important. It's really hard to teach. That is something super hard to teach, and it's almost a sense of chemistry within your team. It's almost it's a you have to try and create a culture where you're like a brotherhood. If you can create that, there's going to be guys that are going to stay accountable for other guys because they have that chemistry, they have that connection with each other that the coach may not have to address it. Players just address it. One of the big things nowadays is marijuana and marijuana use. Okay, on our team, we don't allow it. We don't because you get drug tested. Guess what? You're done for an entire year. And um, we really try to keep guys accountable for that action specifically because we don't want to put our team and our season in jeopardy.
Hmm. So like I think one thing that you brought up was pretty good. Like when you hold guys accountable, you're making it a part of the culture and you're making it a
Mm-hmm.
norm on the team. So like if guys are doing things 2, 3, 4 times in a row and then they're getting held accountable,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot different from a culture of accountability where it's like something happens once, they're held accountable and it's over, and it's not only that, but like that's the standard. It's like, hey, if you do something out of line, if you don't make it up to the standards, if you're living below the standard line, like we're going to hold you accountable until you're there, and you're either going to make it there or you're not going to make it on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Like Los Fresnos High School down in Southeast Texas,
Mm-hmm.
people come from all over the world to study this school. They're like, how is it that you guys come from this socioeconomic background and you have one of the best school systems in the country? Not only in the country, but obviously in the world.
Mm-hmm.
If it's the best in the United States, it's probably one of the best in the world as well.
Yeah.
And what they say is like they have these standards for the kids, and if those kids don't meet these standards, they will hold them accountable until they get there, or their parents are going to hear from them so much that their parents are literally going to take them out of the school and go put them in another school just so they can stop hearing from them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and this school has kids going to University of Chicago, all of the Ivy League schools.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are legit, and not only that, academically, but athletically as well. Like if a kid shows up to school, one of their standards is they can't have holes in their jeans. So if a kid shows up to school with holes in his jeans, he is literally sent home to go change his pants. And then he's allowed back in school. And if that kid makes it through the first or second period, and then finally third period comes and they're sorry about that, and the third period teacher finally sends him to the office to go home, like the first and second period teachers get in trouble
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't hold that kid accountable.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the level of accountability you need to be great, and they are one of the greatest school systems in the country.
We,
So I mean,
on a kind of like on a smaller level, we with our when we lift during the off season, so we'll have lifting groups and we'll do competitions throughout our off season. Um, but within those, we have to try and keep each other accountable to be there every day. To know, like, if you're not there, that you have to let me know, like, where you're at, like why aren't you here, because if you miss one of those days, it hurts our team. We take points away from our team, and it's, we try to get really invested in that, and it helps with, if you got to be there, because if you're not there, you're hurting your team. You're hurt. Guess what? During the season, if you're not there, you're hurting your team. You're still hurting your team. We're trying to translate that to, our actual season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to do that. And I think that's great that you guys are keeping points and tallies of that. I mean, you can always tell who's bought in and who's not bought in just by that simple fact of like, are they showing up on time or are they
Exactly.
not showing up on time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, what's the old quote? Like, if you're on time, you're late. And if you're 15
Yep.
minutes early, you're on time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how it is every time.
Yep.
So that's what you need out of a team. Again, like that's a behavior, and that's one of the things that I wanted to get to was like that's a behavior that you can physically see somebody doing,
Mm-hmm.
because you can't see somebody's insides. Like you can't see how committed they are, you can't see how bought in they are, but
Mm-hmm.
you can see how bought in they are by how they're acting and
Exactly.
what they're actually showing and doing for the team and with the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
exactly. But that's.
So you were talking about like attitude. What's one way what's one thing you talk about with your athletes or with your teammates that they can do that shows that they're bringing a good attitude? Like that's an actual behavior
Mm-hmm.
that you can see.
So, one thing that we show is like keeping it upbeat. So we'll play music just to try and keep it upbeat, trying to have them going. But at the same time, like we don't want kids coming in and oh, it was a long day of school. Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, it's a late night. Like, no, we're here to play baseball. We're here to have fun. Like this is a game, and that's a lot of kids and a lot of coaches get away from that. A lot of coaches get away from, guess what? This is a game. We're trying to have fun here. Even though I'm coaching, I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to have fun with you guys. Um, and I think it's really important for coaches to be involved. And when I talk about, being involved, I'm saying like interact. Don't just sit there and say, do this, do that, go do this, go do that. And, you can help them out and stuff, but I'm saying like, go interact with them. What I did this past year on our football team was I was throwing footballs with our guys. I was taking wide receivers reps with them, trying to, doing one-on-ones with them, um, trying to really be interactive with them. So then their attitudes, their spirits are kind of up a little bit more. Practice isn't boring. We're not doing the same thing every day. But again, when we do see those kids that come in that are, kind of sluggish, kind of slow, kind of, down on them, um, I'll personally pull them aside and say, hey, is everything okay? If you need to talk to someone, you can talk to me. And I think that's really important. We had a kid this past year. Um, I think I'm pretty sure he has depression. And I pulled him aside a few times. It's like, hey, is everything going okay? How's school going? Just trying to talk to him, see how he's doing. And I think that really kind of helped him out to know that I was looking out for him, and that I, saw when something wasn't right. I kind of, just pulled him over there and talked to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe it wasn't necessarily depression. Maybe it was just like a moment in time that he was
Mm-hmm.
going through, or maybe one thing happened and just kind of threw him off.
Exactly.
And therefore, like that kind of threw up a red flag for you, and you're like, all right, I should probably pull this kid away and talk to him, and just let him
Exactly.
know, like, hey, I'm here for you, man. Like, let me know if anything's going on. And now you've opened up the door
Mm-hmm.
for him, instead of just like maybe the door was always open, but you're just reminding him that it's open again, which
Exactly.
is totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I just had this question pop into my head, but it was fleeting. Crap, can't remember. What was the beginning of what you were just saying?
Um,
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Okay, so The be first mentality. This is the one thing that popped into my head. Like you were
Okay.
talking about, like showing the kids that you care, right?
Mhm.
One thing that I've talked about in the past is the be first mentality, and
Mhm.
that's basically like you're the first one to say hi to the kids that day.
Yep.
Anytime they show up, your athletes or your teammates, your coach, just everybody in general, be the first one to say what's up.
Mhm.
Like I remember when I was coaching, kids would show up and the baseball field, you could see the parking lot, but it was probably like 200, 300 yards away. And I
Mhm.
would see kids get out of their car. And right when they got out of the car, I would make it a point to literally yell at the top of my lungs, like, yo, Kendall, what up, man? What's going on? And like, just because they know, like, okay, like Pazik's bringing the juice today, I got to bring that
Yeah.
juice as well, or, yeah, the be first mentality. Like if you want to raise the energy of a team, or if you want to just kind of let people know that you're there for them, like
Mhm.
be first all the time, say hi first. And I mean, going back to that, even like another example of that is this coach JJ Davis, who's the women's basketball coach at Neosho Community College. He says hi to everybody, is the first one to say hi every single time. He is unbelievable, but like everybody loves him, and it's not a coincidence,
Yeah.
because he exudes that be first mentality all the time.
Mhm.
And I think that if a team takes that on, if one person on that team takes that on, it'll change the team. If more than one person takes it on the team, I mean, they'll be great. And if everybody on the team takes on that be first mentality, like they'll be unstoppable.
Oh yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yep. And I think that translates to you know, I think it's important when you translate that be first mentality to be first to show up, be that first guy to be there, and be that first or that last guy to leave.
Hmm.
That's that type of mentality that translates from that, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, when I was doing that and the kids would show up, I'd be working on the field because I was the first one there, and then I would try and say hi to them. And there's the Icelandic professional basketball team I work with. There's this guy that's 39 years old, and he is showing up. He's the first one there in the morning, and he's the last one there to leave. And he's either doing his stretches at the end just because so he can stay in shape and continue to play professional basketball.
Yeah.
And I asked him that question when I was there. I said, "So what are you gonna do after you're done playing professional basketball?" He's like, "After I'm done," he's like, look at my track record. He's like, I'm going to play until I literally cannot play. There will be somebody that picks me up somewhere in the world to play professional basketball, whether it's here or whether it's somewhere else.
Mhm.
And I'm like, dang, that's legit. Like this
Yeah.
guy literally wants to play until he's dead.
Yeah.
That's some dedication to the game, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's true, and the reason he's 39, he's still in the game, is because of that right there. He's the first one to show up and the last one to leave, and he's doing everything he can within his power to continue playing basketball.
Mhm.
And this is a guy that's played in the Euro League. He's played in the Champions League. He just played at, you know, the almost the highest level. The NBA obviously is the first, but he's played at a very close second.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, I like how you brought that up, though. That's so true, man. Like you need to, um, it needs to translate over there to be one of the greatest. I mean,
For
Kobe
sure.
Bryant talks about that as well.
Oh yeah.
Like he's the first one in the gym, last one to leave. And I remember there was a another NBA player, I forget his name, but he said, "I'm going to try beating Kobe." So he tried beating Kobe to the gym, didn't beat him there. And then he tried shooting for as long as Kobe shot, but he couldn't. He's like, all right, I'm done. After like hours of shooting and practicing, he was done. And what's funny is that Kobe talks about that day too. And he goes, oh, yeah, I remember that. He's like, I actually stayed out there until he quit. So, like, he didn't know, but Kobe was doing the same thing back to him.
Yeah. That's
And I
hilarious.
mean, we all know what happened there. So,
Oh yeah.
um, awesome, man. Well, any any questions? Anything else you got on your mind? What's your number one takeaway from our conversation?
Number one takeaway I'd say is it's just I think there's a lot of newer coaches, younger coaches out there that are going to be really good that are coming up. and I really want to see different departments, different schools and stuff like that to take a chance on younger guys coming in because I think they can connect with guys like you and I. I think that it's really important to do so because they want to play for guys like you and I. They want to be able to compete, and it's all about the experience. It's all about the memories. You may not win it. There's one team that wins it at the end. That's our main goal as coaches. But in the end, it's about the experience the kids have.
For sure, man. So going back to my question, what's the number one thing out of this conversation that you took that you're going to take away and implement?
So one thing I'm going to take away is definitely when we talked about accountability. Use what we talked about our accountability to our younger kids and even the freshmen and sophomores on my baseball team right now, and implement that, and have them be more accountable for themselves and their actions.
Yeah. Beautiful, man. Well, keep me updated. Let me know how it's going, and
Sure.
let me know if I can help you out in any way.
All right.
To.
Sounds good. I
All right, man.
appreciate it.
Well,
Yep.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Actually, I'm doing this. I have this product out right now. I'm actually doing it with the Illinois Indians. So
Okay.
it's just a mental performance program. I call it the 1%, but the 1% program, meaning that there's like 1,440 minutes in a day. 1% of that's 14 minutes and 24 seconds. So there's a workbook. I don't have it with me right now, but I'll send you the workbook. You can print it off, and then you just like roll through the webinars. I'll put you on that if you want, just kind of like get some more knowledge in the
Sure.
mental performance arena. And I think it would help both you as a player and you as a coach, no doubt.
For sure. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, I'll throw you on there.
All righty. Sounds good.
All right. Talk to you soon, Carter.
Yep. Talk to you.
See ya.